ends all the way under the skull to right here. This is the foramen magnum. That's the hole that your spinal cord comes out of. There are two temporal bones. Oops. Let's do it. I'm tracing the outline of one of them right here. Oops. Down like this. So it's kind of a funny shaped bone. It has this flat spot here that is called the temporal fossa. Then it has this huge process right here called the mastoid process. It sounds like massive, mastoid. That is where the muscles of your neck, the sternocleidomastoid, attach to help you turn your head like this and then flex your head too. Right here, this is also a hole in the temporal bone. Do you know what this hole might be? Yeah, it's your external auditory canal, or I guess I wrote on here external acoustic meatus. They're interchangeable terms. Meatus is a giant hole, right? Okay, then also a little bit of this arch right here is temporal bone. But you'll notice right here, there's a suture. This becomes the zygomatic bone right here, which you would call your cheekbone. So this is the zygomatic bone starting here and extending to here and up to here. Makes up the outer part of your eye orbit and then your cheekbone. Okay, so again, to go back to the temporal bone, right here is the temporal fossa. This is the mastoid process. This is the external acoustic meatus. This is part of the zygomatic arch of the temporal bone. And then this is the rest of the zygomatic bone.
Is that on that list?
What?
The zygomatic?
Yeah, it's towards the bottom.
Okay, so the last marking on the temporal bone that I'd like you to learn, you have to find so I have the pointer in the external acoustic meatus, and right here is the mastoid process. So now flip it upside down, like that. So again, you see how I have my finger or my pointer in the external acoustic meatus, and here is the mastoid process. Can you find those on yours as it's upside down? Now move directly in front of that, and there's another hole. That hole is called the stylomastoid foramen. And of course, part of its name comes because this is the mastoid process. So you basically slide down the hill of the mastoid process and you go into the stylomastoid foramen. Foramen always means hole. You have two of those because remember this is on both sides. That stylomastoid foramen is where the facial cranial nerve exits, leaves your brain, passes through this hole, and then goes all over your face to power up the muscles of facial expression. Okay, looking at the occipital bone again, I have a good view to show you some markings there. So remember, this is all the occipital bone. The primary marking you see there is this huge hole called the foramen magnum. Then on either side of that hole are these rounded projections called the occipital condyles. A condyle is a rounded projection. Now these sit on your first vertebrae called the atlas, and when you nod your head, yes, like this, your first vertebrae, the atlas, is rocking up and down on these occipital condyles, like this. And that's how you nod your head, yes. Okay, the next marking is the jugular foramen. Now I can find it if you have one of these pointers, which are in your bins. you can do what I'm going to do. Here's the foramen magnum. Here's the occipital condyle. Watch this. When you do that, and you found the jugular foramen. I'll do it again on this side. You had some trouble over there?
Butterfingers today.
Okay, now I'll show it to you from the superior view. This is a superior view. Look, there's that foramen magnum. I'm going to just tilt it up ever so slightly. You can see it pretty easily here. You're probably, you know what I just did is I stuck it through the hypoglossal canal. The jugular foramen is more of a gouge here, so I showed it to you badly. Here, let's do it this way. If you turn the skull, so I've got the eye staring up at me. Here's the foramen magnum. Here's an occipital condyle. Now look. Do you see that hole right there? How big it is? And here it is on this side. And then from this angle, here's the foramen magnum. And look, there's that huge hole. It's really big. Not as big as the foramen magnum, but pretty big. That's the jugular foramen. What blood vessel do you think passes through there? The jugular vein passes through there. Right. And that's not all. There's a few cranial nerves that pass through there too. I think, yeah, I just put some cranial nerves on there. I think cranial nerve number 10 is one of the ones that goes through that hole.
So it's kind of directly under the occipital condyle, the jugular foramen, would you say? Or is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's kind of well under.